Hey everybody, Ashley Page here with Five Plan Partners. Thank you so much for joining us on our educational vlog today. For those of you who are new to the educational vlog, what we try to do on Thursday is we try to take a deeper dive into an economic or financial or market subject to give you some better understanding of what's going on that particular impact, as opposed to the guys on the portfolio vlog that do that Monday that cover a broader amount of issues that are market impactful for the week. So we're delighted to have you with us. The title of our educational vlog today we think is very timely. We're going to break this down for you, and that is, what impact will the European energy crisis have on the world and the U.S. economy? What impact will it have? Well, before we get into the impact on the U.S. and world economy, let's break the situation down there a little bit with a little math for you to kind of give you a little bit of perspective of just what a serious situation the energy problem, particularly this winter and into next year or two, is going to have across the Eurozone and in Great Britain. So, number one, if you look at the Eurozone along with the UK, and you add all of those economies together, along with the United States, Japan, and China, you're talking about one of the four largest economies in the world. So of that top four, no particular order, Eurozone is one of those. And what you're creating right now with the military conflict spilling over is that you're creating a major cost supply shock in one of the four largest economies in the world. That's first. Most economists feel that this is going to be the worst energy crisis in Europe since the last 2 years of World War II, 1944, 1945, and we know what happened there. Basically, everything, particularly in Northern Europe, because of the war, was destroyed. So this is on a level of the World War II impact to show you just how severe this is going to be coming up and getting worse through the wintertime. The other thing that we want to tell you is, when you see the national news, they're focusing on primarily the natural gas and the pipelines into Russia, into Europe, and they should. But the key point that we want to leave with you there is not just the natural gas that's going to be impacted. Europe imports 40% of its natural gas from Russia. However, it also imports 46% of its coal from Russia. So that's a completely different energy silo that is also going to be impacted. And third, 27% of their oil comes from there. So the first thing, besides the fact that it's going to be a severe crisis, we want you to realize it's not just the natural gas that you're seeing on the news that's the problem. The other historical perspective we'll give you, many of you all that are clients and good friends of ours watching this vlog, and I was a teenager at the time, but I still remember it. Remember the 73 energy crisis. Well, let me tell you an interesting fact of that. When we were going through the 73 energy crisis in the United States, those costs were basically 4 times the 5-year moving average of energy, 4 times that in 73. And we all remember the impact that had. I remember sitting at our dinner table in South Alabama, and part of the planning for our family of the week was cost of gas, where to get it. We can't find it here. Can we find it there? I mean, it was a subject of regular conversation. And that was a situation we had 4 times the price of normal average. The European energy crisis is going to be 10 times the cost component over 5-year moving average. It's a huge uptick versus where the 73 energy crisis was. So when you look at what the overall impact is, the International Monetary Fund, or IMF for short, did a study on this knowing it was coming up back in July of this year. And their conclusion by their economist is worldwide, you are going to put a 2.6% drop overall in worldwide GDP. That's just for this year. Next year, it's supposed to be between 2.3 to 2.5%, We'd maintain here at FiPlan, now that we've got a little more time into it, that it actually could be a little bit worse than that worldwide and in the United States. The reason for that, of course, is that OPEC is in the midst of cutting their production. So that's going to make a bad situation even worse. Now, a lot of people are asking, how is this going to come over to the United States? It's going to be very interesting. Number one, on the natural gas prices, they're probably going to be elevated some too here, only because when you've got a lot more demand by the Europeans for that natural gas sort of worldwide, that impact has a cost impact pretty much everywhere. So that's number one. If you look at the GDPs of the European countries that are going to be directly impacted, like the Netherlands, like Germany, like France, the GDPs in those nations that are hit directly, they're probably going to be off by about 6 to 7%. So you take that across Europe, that's a pretty significant GDP drop, again, across one of the 4 largest economies in the world. We feel like the way that that's going to impact the United States is sort of 2 sides of the same coin. One is the main negative impact we'll have on our economy is export volume to Europe. If you think about this, if you're either a consumer in Europe or a corporate industrial user of energy, you're going to cut your expenses back on other buying just to keep your energy costs in line. So let's take an industrial example of that. Let's say that you're building autos in Germany. If you're doing that, and let's say that you are going to import a new machine, laser built in the United States, help you on the tolerance of the vehicle. Let's say it's very expensive this year. You're probably going to put that purchase off, because what you're going to do with the energy input cost on your factory being so much higher this year, again, 10 times normal 5-year moving average, you're probably going to delay that. Well, a lot of that value add equipment that is for high tolerance manufacturing is made in the United States, and Europe buys a lot of it. So you're going to see a fall off in that type of import from Europe, export by us. Same thing with a consumer. If you're sitting there in Europe, in any country, and you're having to pay 10 times on energy cost, if there's, say, a small car that an American manufacturer makes, if you're probably going to put that purchase off, because all of a sudden you're having to cover your energy cost, and those larger discretionary purchases you're going to put off. And so in our mind, it won't stop exports to Europe eventually, but it's certainly going to delay them for now. And we feel like that's going to have an impact here. Sort of a second one is one-off, of course. Europe's a large travel destination, both for Americans and Europeans within Europe. This past summer, my wife and I were in Greece, and we were up at the Parthenon site on the Acropolis, and there were a big site. A lot of people were up there. There were a couple of American groups, but every other language you heard, pretty much every other group up there, was Italian, French, or German. I mean, they were traveling from inside Europe. So in terms of discretionary expenditure for the countries, when you hit tourism, it's also going to drop that. The other interesting thing that is a positive, though, for the U.S. economy and the energy crisis in Europe is a lot of manufacturing is being shifted by European countries here on products that are made where energy input costs, is a lot of it. Good example of that is pharmaceuticals. Good example of that is battery production. We all know about that with the way that's being used in cars more and more with electric vehicles. I read an article the other day quoting the CEO of a company in the Netherlands, and of all things, they make industrial ammonia for all types of application. Well, apparently, something I did not know, production of industrial ammonia is very energy heavy to do. Well, they operate primarily their plants in Europe, but they also have one satellite plant in Texas. So guess what they're doing now? They're reducing the production and the employment of the European plants, and they are shifting it and expanding it to the Texas plant. So a lot of that type of European manufacturing that's usually done over there now is going to have this tremendous input cost increase. So they're shifting a lot of that production here. So that is one positive pickup. A major dynamic, we're watching it very closely and keeping abreast of that, because when you have, again, to close, you have that level of supply shock cost on a top 4 world economy like that. You ask the question, where does that come back to the world economy? The answer is everywhere. It's so large and so interconnected. We're all going to feel that to either direct or ancillary degree. And it's our contention that not only is it going to have a drop off in GDP for world and in the US, percentage of the world economy this year, you're going to see that into 2023 as well. So if you have any other questions about this particular topic or any other, we love hearing from you. Feel free to reach out to us on any social media platform. But as we always joke around here, we're Southerners and friendly. So we love when people just call us on the phone or just swing by to see us. Any on this topic or any other, any of the guys on the portfolio team or myself or anyone here at Five Plan is always happy to hear from you. So we hope this has been interesting to you, and you have a great rest of the week. Thanks so much.